V and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Like puppets or something,
Exactly.
you know?
This is
Bunny Rabbit?
This is Tuesday Night Mime with Ben Stowe.
It's like a little puppet show, you know? Like, woo.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday night, and it is Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. And ladies and gentlemen, I have for you the one, the only, the world traveler, Ben Stowe. Good evening, Ben.
Hey, John.
Man,
Do you think week after week people get tired of hearing that introduction? I mean, something along, the one, the only, the same guy as last week.
but only better, because he's a week older, and that means he knows 10 things more than he did last week. I got to add that to next introduction.
Yeah, what 10 things did you learn this week?
That could get us in trouble.
Right?
But our ratings might go up.
Well, I learned, and we're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but I learned that there is a White Lantern Batman. I didn't know that, but there's lots of different colors of lanterns, the Green Lantern, yep. And apparently Batman got the White Lantern ring, and I learned this at the Comic-Con here in Denver.
Wow. So. And you, here in Denver, meaning that you are in Denver right now while we're shooting.
I am in Denver, yes. And shout out to Carlos, who said, is Ben ever going to get rid of that ugly background that I have normally to shoot? Well, as you can see, Carlos, it ain't here in Denver with me. I didn't put it in my suitcase. So
he left it up in northern Minnesota, and they're enjoying it up there.
We'll start like a Kickstarter or something to fund a new set or something. Carlos, you can make the first donation.
Yeah, exactly. We take nickels and dimes. It'll be great. So, Ben, tonight I want to jump into our topic. We want to talk a little bit about some of the aspects of a soundboard. I've had some people kind of ask some questions about it. Now we're going to look at three components of a soundboard. They're terms that a lot of us have heard, not so much in the DJ world, but they're terms I think that DJs should understand and grasp, because that will help them, I think, when they're putting together, maybe doing PA for their church or maybe doing PA for a small band or something. So, are you ready?
Well, yeah, I'm hearing from a lot of DJs that they're doing, I don't think this is a new thing either, but that DJs are doing some live sound work. Mm-hmm. So I think, all right, well, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump in now. Of course, there's the big soundboards have all their different functionality, and one thing that has been thrown out, especially the live sound guys, is a term called gate. Give me a layman's version of what is gate, and where does it fit into the flow of the audio going from my microphone to the board?
All right. Before I start, let me put this to you so you can remind me that not only is a gate often used in live sound, but for our DJs out there that are producers and are producing tracks, there's a really cool feature that you can use a gate with for producing tracks. And so just don't let me forget to come back. In the simplest of terms, let's think about a gate kind of like a gate on a fence. And let's make this gate spring-loaded. Mm-hmm. And thus, if we push on the gate, but we don't push hard enough, it's not going to open.
Okay.
If we push hard enough, we can push against the spring and the gate will open. The same way we would think about that with our audio level. If the sound coming through that microphone is too quiet, the gate won't allow it through. The gate will stay closed and not allow that audio through. Now, this could be ambient noise, stage handling noise, sounds coming from adjacent things. Maybe we would gate a snare drum, and we don't want to pick up sounds coming from around the kit. We only want when that snare, hits, or the kick drum or whatever. Those kinds of things are what we would use a gate for. Now, there's a lot of functionality to a gate that allows us to be useful to us. For example, the attack and the release. How quickly does the gate fully open, and how quickly does the gate fully close or fully attenuate? And this allows it to sound a little more natural, to allow the signal through, but not be so, slamming that gate shut, as it were. Mm-hmm. one of the most important things about a gate setting is its threshold, and that is how loud does the signal have to be before the gate opens. And we want to be careful with that. If the gate is too high, then we could even have speech getting cut off. It would sound like, as only parts of that speech are loud enough to come through. And that's a real over-dramatized example of like a worst-case scenario gate. But really, I think that the name of the game is we want the gate threshold to be as low as possible while still eliminating our unwanted sounds. Mm-hmm. We don't want to lose any of our intentional sounds.
Now, of course, you do live sound for some major acts that come through the area. Now, is gate something that you use on some of the microphones, all of the microphones? And, of course, there's different levels. But how often do you use the gate feature?
Well, I can't think of a show that I've done where we didn't use the gate on at least some channels, many channels. Mm-hmm. There's, my favorite answer, it depends.
Right.
But I can't think of a show where I've not used a gate. I've had some artists say, "Don't put gates on my drums." If the artist wishes,
Right.
And it also depends on the type of sound you're trying to produce. You can use these things to help sort of change the contour of the overall sound, but they're very useful. And one reason too is every time you double the number of open microphones you have, you lose your headroom. You lose 3 dB of headroom.
Okay.
So that's very important. If that gate can keep those mics closed, at times we don't need them, we have more headroom in our mix.
Ah, okay. I've wondered, because we had talked in a previous show when we kind of dabbled with this topic. You'd mentioned the 3 dB loss per microphone. So that's how a person's able to achieve that keeping them closed.
Glad I'm consistent.
Yeah.
And I alluded to earlier in the producer's realm, another place you can use a gate, and this is when gates become like a super magical thing. Beyond just a useful tool, they become just a super magical thing. It's really kind of true. When we do what's called side chaining, and when we do side chaining, that means that the signal of another channel determines when the gate opens and closes. So, for example, we could side chain to the snare drum, and every time the snare drum hits, the gate opens and allows another signal to come through with it. So, maybe we've got a let's just say white noise on a channel, and every time that snare hits, that white noise comes through with the snare and just adds that particular sound to a snare, mm-hmm. or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're a DJ and you're producing, you're probably already thinking, "Oh my gosh, just imagine what I could do if I sidechained my drums and maybe my vocals," or some weird, mm-hmm. who knows, what kind of crazy concoctions. But that's when creativity happens. These things are just tools.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so you've covered gate on the going in. Now let's look on the other side. When we're talking about coming out, and I've heard the compression and limiters. Now, give me kind of a rundown of what the difference or what those are.
Well, all right. Let's see. In the absence of graphics, I'll try to be illustrative here. Let's talk compression first. And I think everybody can get from the word compression that we compress. That's what we do. We compress the signal. Mm-hmm. We reduce the dynamic range, which is the distance between the peaks and the meat of the music, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, that's in another show too.
Yeah, we talked about that with our waves and such. Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right, viewers, go back and look at our Crest Factor show. So when we take our compressor, we say, all right, here's our threshold. Here's my signal, just going up and up and up and up on this linear path. But if I put a threshold right here, then I could say, all right, at this threshold, I want you to begin to compress that signal. So instead of allowing it to continue on the same trajectory, you're going to compress it. And compression operates in ratios. Let's say like a low ratio, like a 2-to-1 ratio, maybe something we'd use on a bass guitar or something, For every 2 dB of increase, the compressor will allow 1 dB to pass through.
Okay.
Now we can increase that ratio to, let's say, and I'm going to do my best here. If this is 2-to-1, then this would be like 4-to-1. maybe 8-to-1. So we can see that for every 8 dB of increase, we allow 1 through, meaning it's really compressing the range out of that. And that signal, it's really a very aggressive compression. There are times maybe we would want more aggressive compression if you have a vocalist who's really all over the place. You bring up their makeup gain in the compressor to make up for all that loss, but then you knock those peaks way down and try to keep them contained. And I see you have a question coming, so I'll just say this real quick before I let you ask your question. Compression, again, we are eliminating dynamic range, so compression can cause a loss in quality, I think. At other times, it can create it. It's a tool, and all things in moderation, I guess. So,
and that was my question. I was wondering if you could do that 8-to-1 and it's being compressed that much, if there is a loss of sound quality.
Yeah, there's certainly a loss of dynamic range there. That's by definition what we're doing is we're eliminating the dynamic range. We're starting to kind of squish everything together, you can really hear that loss, I think, in articulation and whatnot. And there's all kinds of different things when we get into compressors, hard knee, soft knee, attack, and those sorts of things. We can create problems with compressors too, pumping and that sort of thing. And we're getting into kind of like a 201, 301 kind of thing now. So we'll kind of go back to the basics and say that the more we compress, the more aggressive the reduction of the signal. And a limiter, in essence, is a compressor with infinite compression. So instead of my threshold here again, instead of 2-to-1, 4-to-1, 8-to-1, this is a limiter. When it gets to here, it just doesn't go any higher. It's and again, there are hard knee, which means that this point is a hard line, or soft knee, where it's a bit more of a curve as opposed to an angle. It's more of a curve. I'm doing my best, doing the best I can with my hands.
Yeah,
here,
you're
folks.
doing well. You're doing very, very well.
Like puppets or something,
Exactly. This is
Bunny rabbit.
This is Tuesday Night Mime with Ben Stowe.
It's like a little puppet show, like,
That's what everybody's hoping for. Quick.
You just don't know what I'm going to do next, do you?
So now with the compressing and limiting, where is there a spot when you're doing the live sound that's used consistently? You mentioned the bass guitar that it could be used there, but is there some places it's used like almost all the time, and some places it's not used at all?
Well, here again, I think it depends. Probably everybody who's done live sound is shouting answers at the screen right now.
Yes, no, always, never.
Exactly, and I think I'm gonna hedge on it depends.
Mm-hmm.
But here again, light compression on maybe something like a bass guitar, some acoustics depending on who's playing too. Some vocalists beget heavy compression. Other vocals, not so much. When you have really talented vocalists, you don't want to compress the range out of it. You want to let them go to work. Just use it where necessary. Mm-hmm. Artistically, sometimes maybe for the sound you're looking for, you want too much compression. You want an over compressed sound. There's all kinds of things we do artistically. We overdrive signals to deliberately create distortion and things like that for that sound. Doesn't mean it's right in every application. Tube emulation. There's all kinds of, so I don't think there is a hard and fast rule. And again, there's probably people watching who disagree with that. Mm-hmm. But I think in the realm of artistic expression, there isn't much hard and fast. There are kind of accepted practices. Sure. I think compression is a pretty good idea on drums. Vocals like we talked about, maybe some light bass is kind of dynamic, by nature, and yet we kind of want that to be pretty, it's the backbone of our music, So it depends.
It depends.
Every viewer says, well, I just wasted 5 minutes of my life.
we made that loop all the way back to our favorite answer, right? Of all.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now one last thing. Now, since we're talking about when you're doing production of or the sound for these larger groups and such, and when there's the thing in the DJ industry talking about feedback elimination. Now, is that something that you use in your production of these events? Is that commonly used there, or is that something that's more of a kind of DJ karaoke world tool?
that was kind of dangerous the way you asked that question.
So I need to ask it differently. Okay.
No, I think I had an iced tea here somewhere. Anyway, I think the answer is yes. It's something we use all the time, but not in the context you asked. We obviously want to eliminate feedback. However, we don't use things called feedback eliminators. We use an EQ, simply. We use good gain structure, and then we use, I prefer a parametric EQ. I like finding what I need to deal with and taking out only what I need to deal with. You can also, if you have assignable, for example, let me, I'm sorry, viewers. In the realm of digital boards, we have so many tools available to us, an overwhelming abundance of them. And if you have the ability to assign 31 band EQs to mic channels, maybe you'd want to use that to just go in and start looking for some of these problem areas and knocking those out. You can use that in conjunction maybe with a parametric. Being aware every time we EQ, we change phase and some really complicated things and so on and so forth. But unless you have phase corrected EQ and whatever.
You're just wanting to get technical, aren't you? You just going.
Trying not to. But anyway, long and short of it, a feedback eliminator in a box is essentially just a parametric EQ or an EQ, if not parametric, that has detected at some point where those problem frequencies are most likely to occur and has already notched them out. And we have two kinds of filters in a feedback eliminator. We have fixed filters and then we have dynamic filters. And fixed filters are where we drive a mic into feedback and it says, oh, there's the feedback, which of course is just when that mic is hearing itself. And that's not going to occur across the board. It's going to occur at certain frequencies before it'll occur at others. And that's due to the output of the speaker, the acoustic characteristics of the room, and the response pattern of the microphone. So it says, okay, this is a problem frequency. I'll grab that problem frequency and eliminate it. We know it's a problem, let's get rid of that. So we have 5 or 6 fixed filters maybe. And then we have our dynamic filters, and that's where something happens during the show. And the feedback eliminator says, oh, we got a problem. But here's the problem with that. We have to have feedback, and it has to sustain for long enough that the feedback eliminator can identify it as feedback.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, and long before it does, all of your guests did. So I'm not really a fan of those. And if we think about what we just said about the fixed filters, well, that's just what we could have done on our own with an EQ.
Right.
It just listened to the feedback and knocked them out for us. Nothing we couldn't have done with an EQ in a couple minutes. So I'm not really a fan, I guess.
Sure.
I wouldn't buy one myself.
Sure.
Now, my board has a really cool tool. We're kind of straying a bit from feedback elimination, but my board has a really cool tool, which is a dynamic EQ, which changes based on threshold. So as a singer sings louder, the characteristics of their voice might change and more EQ might be necessary. So this and it's a feature that my board is a Digico, but a lot of high-end boards have. As that threshold increases, it will pull down, because better to cut than boost, right? EQ. It could boost if we wanted it to, but it will EQ frequencies differently based on the threshold of the audio. Which is another, useful place for EQ.
And we had, in a couple of our past shows, we've dug into this a little bit, and we've shown some of the parametric EQing and how you've identified some hot spots and adjusted and such. So, folks, if you're really into that, you can check out our past Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe shows. We've got some playlists out there on DJN TV, and you can go through and we've talked about it a few times, but I just wanted to kind of, since this has been a hot topic again with a few DJs, wanted to touch base on it again tonight.
Yeah, boy, I tell you what, the tools that are available and the price for which they're available to you is mind-numbing. The availability of sub $3,000 32-channel digital mixing boards, absolutely mind-numbing.
Yeah.
That these tools, which used to cost many thousands of dollars and occupy many racks now live in a small, very affordable console. And they are wonderful tools to make better sound for these live events and whatnot. They're also a good way to get in trouble. And as with all things, practice will make perfect.
That's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. It's not something you can just all of a sudden go out, buy it today and go out and do it tomorrow and be a professional.
Well, no, I'm still learning. We started the show saying what 10 things did Ben learn this day, and I'm excited. Every time I think every day I try to learn something. I try to add something to my toolkit, and I learn every day from other sound professionals. There are very few that I think have all the answers. I'm certainly not that guy.
Yeah, yeah, that's the best way to be, learning every day. Ben, thank you very much for your time tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. If you like what you see, please go down, click the like button down below the video. Go down, make some comments, questions on YouTube. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate your feedback because, well, this is kind of our way of getting a pat on the back once in a while. No, wait a second. That's what our wives are here for.
No, that's not it.
No, that's not it. Anyway.
They're here to keep us humble. I got to say, I had lunch with a couple of friends here in Denver, maybe a couple of viewers. I'm not going to name them in case they don't want to be named, but I enjoyed it. And we were talking about that a little bit. And I said, one time during a question and answer session after a seminar, usually people ask a question about the material that was presented, but every now and then you get something kind of off the wall. Somebody said, "What's it like to know everything?" Of course I don't, but I said, well, I don't know everything, but let me say this. It feels really, really good to be introduced on stage as an expert and to be able to convey useful knowledge to people, and to be in a room full of people that feel like you're smart. Because when I go home to my wife and teenage daughter, I'm reminded that I don't know anything. Nothing. So that's what our wives are there for. Our wives are there to keep us real.
Keep us, yes. Right.
So it means you, the viewer, is there to pat us on the back.
Exactly. Oh, good stuff. Once again, Ben, we need to wrap things up. Thank you much. You go enjoy Denver, and we will catch you. See, maybe next week we can do 2 in a row again. Woo!
Wouldn't it be nice?
All right. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm John Young with the Disc Jockey News, Disc Jockey News TV, and this is Ben Stowe from an LFX Pro. Thanks for watching. Good night.